Welcome to this class. We're going to be talking about giving you an outline of the IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 and talking about how to find the main features, which is crucial if you want to do well. It's exactly what you're being asked to do in Task 1, which is essentially how you plan your essay. So we're going to look at the main features in detail and look at a number of questions and work out how to find those main features. But first, let's have a quick outline of what you'll be asked to do in Academic Writing Task 1. It's a 20-minute writing test where you must write at least 150 words. You're going to get two kinds of questions. You're going to be either asked to give a report to a university professor, or you're going to be asked to find the main features and give comparisons where relevant. So let's look at a question. This one is asking us to provide a report for a university lecturer describing the information shown below. Now really you want to focus on the main features. That's what you want to start with. That's really what your plan is about. You can write a detailed plan, but I suggest you start looking at the main features as the basis of any plan. And just to mention that even if today you think, wow, I don't really understand what this is, it's very complex, it's very complicated, you're going to find it becomes more familiar as we go through these classes, because we're going to get individual descriptions and ideas and how to look at these individual questions in each of these classes. You're going to get more familiar with it and you'll feel more comfortable as time goes by. So don't worry if today you think, wow, I don't really understand it. So we want to find our main features, and generally there are two or three, and how we can approach that idea is by imagining that we have 5 minutes to tell someone, to tell me maybe, what the important things are in that picture. What are the important things to mention in that picture? Now these important things to mention will make up our overview, or the overview that you need to write in your essay. And writing a good overview is really very, very important. We'll talk about that later. So, looking at this graph, what do you think is the most important thing here? Yes, I think yellow is right. If you said yellow, and yellow is Great Britain, so maybe that's the number one or the most important main feature. Now, what about the second? What can we say for the second main feature? It's quite difficult, isn't it? So maybe it's the black and the orange, because they make up the second and third most significant or most important or largest figures, mostly. And perhaps the blue being the third. So in this question, it looks like we've got 3 main features. So you could have 4 main features. That would mean each country is a different feature, which doesn't really organize the answer very well. So it kind of makes more sense to have the yellow on its own, because that is the highest. And the second and third do swap places generally throughout the question, and the blue is almost always the lowest. So that's how to organize a general picture, not specifics. Okay, looking at a line graph. Now what would you say are the main features in this one? Yeah, hopefully you got the right answer. We're looking at the green and the blue, because there's only 2 lines. It makes it a little bit easier to find out what the main features are. They're fairly similar though, but you can see the green one is a lot steeper, so you can describe that. And that would be the main feature, the green. And the blue maybe is a little more steady. And you're going to look at words like that in the future. We'll look at those specific words to describe things like this in another class, but just now focusing again on the main features. So let's have a look at another question. Okay, now we've got 3 pie charts here. So again, what do you think are the main features? Well, you can obviously see, hopefully, that the green is growing, is bigger. Over the 10-year periods, over the decades, we've got the computer science slice of the pie increasing. So maybe that is the most important feature because it is the largest number. It's 45 in 2010. And maybe the next idea, perhaps that business, the business at university, at this national university, was being studied by fewer and fewer students over the years. So, computer science increase, business decrease, whereas, yep, medicine and law go up and down, or down and up. So, we could combine things like that. So, this one, probably we're talking about three main features: the green, the yellow, and the blue and the red. And when we talk about things going up and down or down and up, we're talking about fluctuations, or to use the verb fluctuate. Okay, so in this case, three main features. So hopefully you can tell by now what we're trying to do is we're trying to combine different groups together. Combining items together, like the blue and the red, even though they're not exactly the same, but they're very similar in the fact that they go up and down or down and up. This kind of way of identifying the main features really helps us to be able to describe those main features in more detail in the main body paragraphs, which you'll do later. So, let's look at another question. So, back to the block graph or block charts. What do you think this time? What are the main features here? Well, hopefully you've identified the red one as being the most important, because that is the biggest. It's the one that most students were involved in. Secondly, the blue one, yes, hopefully you got that one too. So that was soccer, and thirdly it would be basketball. And there we are. That's exactly how you would plan this essay. You'd find out the first most important main feature. One of the traps with this question is to think that there are three different times. So you might compare those and say that they've gone up or down, when actually they haven't gone up or down because the actual graph is a static graph. It's not showing things over time. It's actually just showing three classes. And that's one of the kinds of ways that they catch you in IELTS writing. You can often fall into their trap. And you can see the language I've used here: highest involvement, second most popular, least popular. And again, that's something you're going to learn more about in later classes, but that's a really good way of using a variety of English. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So looking at this line graph, what do you think? What are the main features here? Yeah, now this one's slightly interesting because you could actually say there are three main features or two main features. Do you see the three? Do you see the two? So the two main features you could talk about: United States and France, because they're the highest and they're quite similar, kind of, in their lines. So that's possible. And the other main feature: Malaysia, Egypt, and Brazil. That's one possibility to say two main features. And that is actually how I would answer this question. However, if I saw someone say there were three main features and I was marking their essay, I would also say it was okay. So what are those three main features here? So the three main features, potentially, if you want to go this way, are the United States. That would be the first main feature. Second main feature, potentially France and Malaysia. You know, you could talk about those trends or lines being similar. And that third main feature, again, you could talk about Egypt and Brazil, and that would be fine. Yeah, that would be fine as long as you talk about them in the right way and use the right language. So you've learned the right approach and how to plan things properly, which is the best approach and most professional approach you can have. And that's basically finding those main features, because that is the focus at the beginning. And you're usually looking for two or sometimes three main features. Good job for sticking with this class. I know it's not been easy. You might find some of these questions really difficult, that's not a problem. We're just starting off. So we'll see you in the next class, and we'll get more confident as we go along.